Right. This is the Crunch Fat, and this is part 9, and the finale of What If Female Deku with Space Godzilla. So, just like with Albedo last time and the other ones that I finished, I will be covering all the events in this part. So I'll be covering the final battle in the sports festival, All Might and Ninko revealing that they're Izumi's parents, and then the internships, training arc, overhaul arc, and whatever other arcs I'd like to cover. Alright, so enough with that chit-chat, and let's begin. So we'll open up with President Mike announcing the final battle of the sports festival, as he announces the names of Bakugo Katsuki from Class 1A and Aura Crestfallen from Class 1A, as he would then announce begin, with Bakugo immediately flying towards her, letting off explosions, as Izumi erects a crystalline wall, which stops the explosion, as she then gets around the crystal and then slams Bakugo into the ground with her tail. As Bakugo would then get up, as he would try to hit her with an explosion, which she basically moves the direction of his arm, causing the direction of the explosion to change. So instead of exploding at her, it goes into the air, as Izumi then kicks Bakugo in the face. As she would then basically put Bakugo across the ring, as he would skid along. As she would then continue her assault by erecting 2 crystals to charge her shoulder crystals, as she would then open fire on them, as this would cause Bakugo to be on the defensive now, as he's currently being blasted by a breath attack, yeah. As Bakugo's currently trying to dodge it and all that, as Izumi would then begin to start predicting where Bakugo will go instead of looking at where he is. She would hit the ground, do a breath attack as Bakugo was just about to land on it, as Bakugo would then lose his balance. As Bakugo is thinking to himself that he won't lose to the likes of her, as he would launch himself into the air and begin to spin around in the air, as he's about to launch his howitzer impact. As Izumi sees this coming, she's thinking, yeah, it's time to break it out, as she creates another thermal crystal, as she would shatter it. But just as she shatters it, she stumbles a bit as she begins to start coughing, as she, covering her mouth during this, as she moves her hand away from her mouth, she sees she sees what appears to be blood, her blood specifically, as she's thinking to herself, damn it, I'm overdoing it. Well, this looks going to have to be the last one for a while. As at this point, not only are her shoulder crystals glowing, but her crystalline dorsal plates as well. As she would take a fairly large, deep breath, as she would fire, as a massive beam would come out, as Bakugo would then set off his howitzer impact, as these 2 attacks would collide. As Izumi's attack would basically blast all the way through Bakugo's, as it hit Bakugo directly in the chest. As it appears to go through him, but it didn't really damage the skin or any organs. It sort of just went through him and then nothing bad happened. As Bakugo then falls to the ground and out of bounds. As Midnight goes to check Bakugo's pulse to see if he's still alive, and sees that he is, as Midnight would say, Katsuki Bakugo is out of bounds, and Aura Crestfallen is the victor, as Aura would then collapse due to exhaustion and overuse of her quirk. Because, she's been using her quirk a fair bit. And if I remember correctly, the ship was Shinso. Hold on, give me a minute. I just had to double check. I was correct, it was Shinso. As Izumi would wake up a couple of hours later with Shinso by her at her bedside, as she would then begin to sit up. As she would then grab Shinso's shoulder and shake him a bit to wake him up. As Shinso would wake up, as Izumi would say, "So, I guess you really were worried about me, weren't you?" As Shinso would immediately hug her, as he would say to her, "Please do not do that again." As Izumi would hug him back, as she would say, "Yeah, I promise." As we'll then cut to the award ceremony, with Todoroki getting his 3rd place medal, Bakugo getting his 2nd place medal, and Izumi getting her 1st place medal. As these are all presented by All Might, as All Might then whispers to Izumi that she has to meet the pro heroes in the teacher's lounge after the sports festivals concluded. As All Might then does his thing that isn't canon, as we then cut to a couple of hours later with Izumi in the teacher's lounge. Sorry about the little pauses. I was just making sure that the timer thing was still going. Anyway, I'm continuing. As Izumi would she would say, "Why'd you call me in here? If all the pro heroes are here, then this has to be important." As Principal Nezu would say, yes, this is quite important. Here." As he would hand her a piece of paper. As Izumi would ask, "What is this?" As Nezu would say, "It is a DNA test. We were wondering who your biological parents were, since we didn't really see you living with any. So we ran a DNA test to see who your parents are, and it turns out that your mother and father are Mr. and Mrs. Yagi." As Izumi would begin to look down at the paper in a mixture of just pure rage and sadness, as she'd walk up to All Might and then immediately punch him in the face, sending him to the ground. As all the pro heroes there immediately get into a fighting stance, as Nezu immediately tells them to back down and let her deal with this. As Izumi would just be shaking at this point, as she would say, Why was it I was left all alone at that orphanage where nobody even bothered to care for me. Did you even care for me when you left me there? Why did you leave me there? Was it because of my quirk? Or was it just that you, as the number one hero, you just didn't feel like raising a child? As All Might would have realized the amount of emotional damage that had been done to Izumi over the course of the years that she's been without her parents or any form of friends. As All Might would say, Izumi, I'm very sorry. I have failed you as not only a teacher and a pro hero, but I have also failed you as a father. But I had good reason to leave you. We knew that if the news went public that I had a child, then you would have been targeted by villains. It's not... I know what I did wasn't right, and I can't change that. But please, give me another chance. As he's sort of like doing the kneeling thing, the kneeling he did in the anime with Inko, when he was trying to convince her to let Deku stay in UA. As All Might would say, please, give me another chance. As Izumi would look at him, as she would say, I'm willing to give you another chance, but it's going to take a while for you to gain my trust. So it's best if you just stay out of my way for now. As she would then walk out and leave the office, as they had noticed that some crystals would begin to form from the ground from when she stepped. As Nezu would look at this, as he would say, she is very angry. I can see what she's going through. She is angry, sad, and confused. Just give her time, Toshi. She will come around. As we will cut to a couple of hours later, when Izumi's in a forest clearing, letting out some rage as she is basically blasting anything that's in her path, trees, any form of movement, and anything in her area was basically annihilated. As when Shinso came to find her, because he didn't see her at school after the sports festival, he saw what happened to the clearing. There were crystals all over the place. Trees had appeared to either be completely obliterated by crystals or her breath weapon. And some of them did appear to be burned from her thermal nuclear mode. As he sees some crystals, some forms of crystals surrounding Izumi. As Shinso would walk over to her, as Izumi's basically unconscious. She's fallen asleep at this point due to exerting herself. As Shinso would then pick her up and then take her back. I think I put the dorms in place in this timeline. If I didn't, I'm sorry, I haven't done this in a while. If I didn't, then they have been put in place. As the next day, Aizawa then presents the internships. As Izumi still has a lot of crystals forming around her, even though she's like not actively trying to do it, it's like subconscious. As everybody's noticing the crystals forming around her, and they know what kind of damage they will do if they decide to like jettison out. As Aizawa then presents all the internship offers everyone had gotten. And everyone sees that Izumi had gotten the highest recommendation for her internships. As they would say, as everybody would be congratulating her on the amount of recommendations she'd gotten. But Izumi basically isn't, how should I say, she isn't really, like, focusing on people congratulating her or the amount of internships she got. She's mainly, like, her mind is all over the place right now, so I can't even not even I can pinpoint down where it is. Anyway, continuing forward, Izumi then gets her sheet for internships, and she decides to go with the oh yeah, that's right, they need to pick out hero names as well. So I'll do the internship thing at the internship paper, and then I'll do the hero names. As Izumi's first choice for an internship is with the space hero number 13, and everybody else's internships is as they were in canon. Oh yeah, and after the sports festival, Shinso was moved into Class 1A. Hold on. Sorry about that. As Shinso will go with I'd say he would go with Aizawa, because I'm pretty sure Aizawa has an agency. Give me a minute. Alright, I couldn't find the agency, but I'm going to say that he does have a hero agency. So Shinso goes to work with him, and Izumi goes to work with 13. Now, I'm not sure if 13 is a dude or a girl, so I'm just going to say I'm going to be using they. Even though I did see did see a little bit of their face in the manga, I'm still not sure if it's a dude or a girl, so I'm just going to be using they. So if that's alright with you guys, we can continue. As we'll then be going to the hero names. Now, everybody's hero names is how they were in canon, except for Izumi's and Shinso's. As Shinso's hero name, I'll be taking this from the Poison Ivy What If that I did a while ago. As it will be I think it was Hypno, or yeah, his hero name will be Hypno. As Izumi brings hers up, as it is, she has on her one written down Space Gojira. As they would ask why did she choose that name, as she would say, well, for a while I had been studying some of the crystals that had been emitting, and some of them, and the materials that they're made of appear to be from space. So some kind of space material. And the Gojira part of my name stands for many things, including the mixture of the kanji for gorilla and whale, but mainly stands for God incarnate in some Japanese villages. And yes, I'm taking the God incarnate thing from the Shin Godzilla movie. If you want to do something about it, fight me. I'm joking. Do not fight me. I will lose, and I will cry. I'm joking. Anyway, let's continue forward. As Izumi would arrive at 13's hero agency, 13 would welcome her to her hero agency, as 13 would ask Izumi if her hero name doesn't sound a bit egotistical, as Izumi would respond with that she has proven time and time again that her her quirk has been proven to be of a godlike near god level status. So it would be quite fitting. I'm not saying that it is god level, but it's possibly quite near that. As 13 would say, yeah, you're possibly quite right. As her internship would go quite smoothly. And unfortunately, due to nobody being in the vicinity of Host's city where Stain attacked, Ida would end up being killed by Stain. I'm sorry for all the Ida fans watching this, or if you guys have made it this far into the video. But I'm sorry, but Ida is going to have to kick the bucket on this one. As we then continue forward to the final exam arc. As everybody's fights are as in canon. Hold on, give me a minute. I'm gonna get a drink. Sorry about that. I was watching something on YouTube. I'm sorry, I get sidetracked. Anyway, continuing. Izumi and Bakugo end up fighting against All Might. And Izumi is still angry about this, as a lot of the teachers had opposed this choice, but never stated that both Izumi and All Might need to work out their issues, so this is the best way they could. And All Might's thinking about this, as then a couple seconds later, after the match started, All Might sees a massive crystal hurtling towards him. Yes, I am doing this, and no, you cannot stop me. I'm joking. If you guys want to see me do it, actually, hold on, I'll save that for the end of the video. Continuing forward, All Might manages to smash the crystal into pieces, but right behind that crystal was Katsuki Bakugo, as he would let off an explosion. As All Might would think to himself, these two really are working together, when he suddenly feels something grab him. He looks, and there's nothing around him, and nothing grabbing him. And then he remembered, Izumi has telekinesis, because Inko. As he then sent slammed into the ground, as she's keeping him pinned, but she is also subtly increasing the force on him to the point where the ground is now becoming indented with All Might's shape. As All Might would begin to cough up blood from the amount of pressure that is being put on him, as Bakugo is basically yelling at Izumi to stop, but Izumi is literally not listening. She's too focused on All Might to notice that she's actually killing him. That's when Bakugo smacks Izumi on the back of the head and yells at her to snap out of it. As Izumi realizes what she's doing, as she then lets go of her telekinetic grip on All Might, as Bakugo then puts the handcuffs on All Might, with them then saying, Nether announcing that Bakugo Katsuki and Izumi Yagi have passed their exams. As we'll cut to after the final exam, with Izumi basically sitting in her dorm room on her bed, as she's curled up into a ball. As she'd hear knocking on her door, as she'd hear hold on. Sorry about that. As she'd hear somebody ask, "Can I come in?" As there is no Izumi doesn't even answer. She's like actually like full blown, like her head, like where her face is like in her knees right now, like they're buried into her knees. As Baku as Shinso would walk in, as he would say that he heard what had happened in the training. I mean, in the final exam with All Might. As Shinso would begin to comfort her by saying that it isn't really her fault that she ended up this way. It's just that people in this society have been raised to believe that people with quirks that change that cause their appearance to change makes them villainous, and that people with very flashy and powerful quirks are heroes. So it isn't her fault that she ended up this way. It's the society's fault. And and that Shinso then says that he admires that she's working to become a hero. She's working to become a pro hero for the sake of those who do have similar quirks to her. As we will then get to the forced training camp arc, the ledge thing goes about as it does in canon. The onsen scene goes about as it does in canon, and the villain attack on the training camp sort of goes similar as it does to canon. This is probably going to be about half an hour, but screw it. Anyway, Izumi deals with Muscular, saving Kota in the process. She then systematically takes out some of the Nomus on there and some of the villains that are out there. And Bakugo and Shinso get kidnapped as in canon. Bakugo and Shinso get kidnapped, not as in canon. Yeah, they do get kidnapped by Mr. Compress like in canon, but it's not Bakugo and Tokiyami, it's Bakugo and Shinso. My brain is not wanting to work right now. Anyway, once Izumi hears that Shinso's been captured, there is an immediate pressure of killing intent around her. As she then floats off, as she'll then basically like jump into the sky and then fly off. As all the people who were there saw this, as Class 1A and Aizawa are thinking she's making a mistake that she's making a mistake. She's blinded by her own anger. As she'd immediately make it to the League of Villains hideout, and the heroes are making their way to the hideout as Izumi is charging up her breath attack, as her shoulder crystals and her dorsal crystals begin to glow. As she then sends a full power blast into the building to blow up the roof. As she finds that nobody is there, nobody's in the bar. As she's wrapped up by one of the Nomas from the Host of City incident. I'll say it's the one with the tongue quirk. Like the one where like its tongue can branch off. Yeah, I'll say that it's that one. As the monitor that All For One speaks through comes on, as he'd say, "So you are All Might's daughter, Izumi Yagi." As Izumi would say, And what is it to you? As All For One would say, ooh, I sense a lot of anger coming from you, young lady. How about we make a proposition? I make All Might disappear. And I make All Might disappear and create a utopia for the people with quirks like yours, on one condition. You give me your quirk. Because with it, I can make the job of dealing with All Might a lot easier. Now, Izumi does have like a tiny shard of the thermonuclear crystal with her. As Izumi would say, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. I want to do this by showing people that they do not need to be afraid of people like me. You're wanting to use my quirk to instill fear into those who are willing to do that. As All For One would say, I hate it when they resist. As he basically warps Izumi and the Nomu away to the Nomu lab. As Izumi's still holding on to the thermonuclear crystal. As All For One would say, now, child, give me your quirk. As he would go to grab her forehead to take her quirk, but just at that moment, she shatters the thermonuclear crystal as her entire body begins to glow. Like, her entire body begins to glow, as she'd say, yeah, this is the point where that stops, as she begins to glow brighter as a massive nuclear pulse is let off that basically destroys the area. No, not the area, a portion of the building, like Mount Lady did in the canon. And the nuclear pulse is visible to the heroes, so they make their way over there. As Izumi had already got Bakugo and Shinso, holding them with their telekinesis, as she then basically puts them in like a crystalline cage to keep them safe. As All For One would then do the same thing I did in canon and let off the massive air pressure blast they did on Mount Lady and Beth Genus. As Izumi is then basically sent to the ground, as she's basically struggling to get up. As All For One would then say, I knew you'd resist. That's why I had this plan input. As Izumi can't do anything, as he grabs Izumi by her head, as he would try to steal her quirk. As Izumi would begin to scream out in pain, as she would then begin to laugh. And laugh, and laugh. As All For One would say, what do you find so funny? As Izumi would respond with, I just remembered. I just figured this out as well. You can't steal my quirk. As she'd then grab All For One's wrist, as she'd then begin to move his hand off her head, as she'd then say, because this isn't a quirk. Actually, no, it is a quirk. Shit. Hold on. Give me a minute. Actually, retcon that bit. You should say, unlike, just, hello. I should say, luckily for me, I am All Might's daughter. And I'm just going to say it like this. When Inko was pregnant with Izumi, there were some little bits of One For All in Izumi when she was developing, because One For All can be passed on willingly if there's DNA. But since All Might couldn't really pass it on unless somebody actually like ingested the DNA, I'm going to say it right here. The little bit where the quirk couldn't be stolen is now where it works for Izumi because that was passed down to her. As she would then blast All For One in the face as All Might would come hurtling down and slam All For One into the ground. As Izumi would make her way out, along with the cage that she was keeping Bakugo and Shinso in for safety, as she would then take it to UA and then undo the cage. As the All Might versus All For One fight would go as it did in canon, with All For One losing and All Might coming out victorious. Alright, next arc, Provisional License Exam. That goes about as it did in canon. Yeah. And now for the Overhaul arc. So Izumi and Mirio are out on patrol as a girl bumps into Izumi, as we know this girl as Eri. As Overhaul would say, I apologize for my daughter. She's not aware of her surroundings. Hold on. Sorry about that. As Izumi would be getting a bad vibe off of Overhaul. As Izumi would say, "What are you doing to this child? And we know who you are, Kaishisaki. Or should we say Overhaul?" As Overhaul would begin to take his glove off, as Izumi would say, "Yeah, that's not happening," as she'd use her telekinesis to crush Overhaul's hand. Both of his hands, actually. As Overhaul would be taken into custody, as we'll then get to the gentle criminal thing that goes about as it did in canon. And now, finally, we get to the future, where Izumi is one of the top pro heroes, and she had achieved her dream, where those who have quirks like hers are now no longer judged as villainous. As Shinso is currently the number 16 hero, as Izumi is the number 1 hero. As she has grown to accept All Might, to forgive All Might, knowing that he had to do it for her good, and that if he didn't do it, she probably wouldn't be in the position she is right now. And Shinso and Izumi would have a kid. And you guys will get to name that kid in the comments below. And that is the end of Space Godzilla to Female Deku. I do hope you guys enjoyed this. And what kaiju would you guys like to see next? Because I can show you guys the kaiju that I have right now. Okay, give me a minute. Right, so the kaiju I have are Mechagodzilla, Kaiser Ghidorah, the Skullcrawler, let me get the image. Jesus, sorry about this. Mothra, the Muto, Gigan, Biolante, that's Kaiser Ghidorah again. Zilla, Megaguirus, Orga, and I think that's about it. Hold on. Oh yeah, and Mechagodzilla. So you guys get to decide which kaiju I do next. Be sure to leave your option in the comments below, and I will see you all next time. Ta-ta.